In a sea of different types of political content on social media, one had always caught my eye. Originally gaining popularity from the channel Jubilee, a format called Middle Ground had started a trend where people with opposing political views could argue in small groups, or sometimes there would be up to one person surrounded by up to 30 other people with different views than them, and each person would take turns debating the person in the middle. As entertaining as these videos are, they weren't usually that productive. The two sides go back and forth without really hearing each other, almost like they're just listening to respond. Many of these videos have tens of millions of views, and these debates have become so popular that the people featured have been able to gain a large social media following from their opinions. For many of us, the discussion around politics may seem pretty normal, but I think some of you will be surprised to find out that politics could be something more private. In a 2024 piece from Kellogg on enlightened disagreement, researchers argued that open political discussion has not always been the norm, and that many people used to avoid political conflict in everyday conversation. My main idea here today is that social media can turn political disagreement into performance. But if we listen for the story behind a belief, we can disagree without dehumanizing each other. The way I saw this in my life takes us back to the 2016 election. I was in second grade and, of course, knew nothing about politics aside from what my parents had told me, like most of my peers at that age. But our lack of knowledge definitely didn't stop my two best friends and I from discussing it on the playground. We kept our voices low because a part of us knew that we were probably not supposed to be talking about this, but regardless, two of us had said that our parents had voted for a certain candidate and began repeating some of the bad things we heard from our parents about the other candidate. We both noticed the silence coming from the third friend in our conversation, and the energy kind of shifted. We looked at her and asked, "Wait, did your parents vote for the other candidate?" She ran away crying, which wasn't uncommon in the second grade, but there was a tension after. We decided just to not talk about it again, or maybe we just forgot because, again, we were in second grade, but that discomfort of not agreeing with someone on something so heavy lingered as I grew up. The silence was more uncomfortable than whatever argument would have started as a result, and for me, I felt like that's how I saw it handled in our country for a long time. I guess the question I have today is, how did we go from avoiding politics in everyday conversation to broadcasting it as combat online? And how has that affected the way we treat each other? The answer is really only a few buttons away: TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and every other platform that allows you to express yourself. As we transitioned from 2019 to 2020, with a new election coming up and plenty of discourse around a recent police brutality murder, social media has started to change. It became something beyond a hub for dance videos, makeup tutorials, or lip syncs. It became something much more serious, a place where people could spread awareness about issues they cared about to millions and millions of people, ultimately influencing people of those numbers and educating them at the same time. It was easier to do this behind a screen than face-to-face, because that tension doesn't exist when you're speaking to a camera or typing in a comment section. But along with the ability to reach so many people, you'll often run into people who don't agree with you, think your views are stupid, or will just decide they hate you for what you think. Of course, the issue of disagreement has existed long before social media, but platforms like TikTok and YouTube have made it possible for people to argue with an audience of millions, and that visibility can amplify disagreement into hostility. As interesting as it may seem, public visibility can raise the stakes of a disagreement, turning it into a performance where people feel pressure to win, which can escalate into hostility. Analysis from The Atlantic has described this shift as social media creating more fragmented and polarized public discourse, where disagreement becomes more visible and more intense. Being middle school age during this pivotal time, I was easily susceptible to hateful mindsets towards people with certain political views myself. The way I treated people changed based on what I could find out about their political views, and I was proud of upholding my values, even if it meant being hurtful towards someone else. I thought there was no way anyone with views different than mine could have a working brain. And a report from the Pew Research Center discovered that as of late 2025, 84% of U.S. adults believe that political debate has become less respectful. And another study notes that 45% of Americans have stopped talking to someone specifically because of something political that person said. These patterns are also supported by research from Kellogg School of Management, which highlights how increasing polarization can discourage respectful disagreement. Scrolling through my phone and seeing all of that hatred pushed out towards me every day caused me to not even think twice about my hateful mindsets, and even affirm that they were right and okay. Now, this isn't to say that social media has only ever influenced me in negative ways, because the debate videos I referenced a few minutes ago played a big role in helping me to grow out of those negative mindsets. Though there were many different quotes and stories that helped me to change my view, there was one that particularly stuck out to me and I find myself thinking back on often. In one of the debates, a Republican man is debating a Democrat and says that whoever's in office doesn't really matter to him because when you live in the hood, progress isn't made anyway. His experience with being apolitical wasn't something that I agreed with, but his reason why was something I never thought about before. Even if the points didn't always make sense to me, or if I didn't even really change my mind at all, hearing other people's stories and their life experiences that shape the way they think helped me to see them as more than just red or blue. I was able to understand the nuances within many issues and step away from the black and white mindset that I previously had, where there was only ever right and wrong. As we all know, social media has its ways of being detrimental and beneficial, but the way you choose to take from it